guys, I'm doing a quick part 2 of how you keto adapt. I just mentioned how to graduate down. I mentioned disease you need to focus on and not weight first, because weight will come second. And I talked about getting a glucometer. Get your glucometer. You want to make sure that if you are measuring in milligrams per deciliter, you want a glucose under 80. But if you have a glucose under 80, you've got to have ketones over 0.5. Because your glucose is low and your ketones are low, you're hypoglycemic and you feel sick, and that's not good. That's insulin resistance. Okay. You want, if you're using a millimolar system for your glucose, then you want to always check both, right? AM, fasted in the morning, first thing. Don't go work out and then check your glucose or your ketones. Check. Roll out of bed, check. They make the needles tiny. You don't even see it. You know, if you check it, you know, I say, because I'm trying to hurry up, you can check every day for your glucose for the first month to see what are your triggers. I'd say check twice a day. Fasted in the morning, before breakfast, before you get moving, and at night when things calm down, at least 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours after dinner in the evening to see if your glucose remains the same. It should sort of remain within the same range all day long if you are keto adapting. You cannot have high glucose and high ketones. That's why you check both. People who just check their ketones are like, oh my God, I'm in ketosis, or they're using a breathalyzer. No, they're using urine strips, which those are completely useless because your body stops secreting or excreting is more the word, ketones when you become adapted. When the ketones are getting into your cells, you don't need to urinate them out. So people who are highly adapted don't even show that they're in ketosis on the urine strips, so get rid of them. Spend a couple of extra bucks because it is worth every penny to get a glucometer that measures 2. We've got Precision Extra for those in the US. It is like very credible and notable as a top glucometer. Novamax is not as much as a good brand, but that's also a brand. I believe the UK has a brand. I don't remember the name. Somebody told me what it was. But the next one is called Freestyle. It's a Canadian brand. And when I was in China, you could get it there. So clearly they are selling that internationally. You want to be able to use, if you are abroad, go look up iHerb with an H, IHERB.com, I believe, or .org. They sell internationally. I believe it's $4.99. Don't quote me on it, but I believe it's about $4.99 to ship anywhere, U.S. or abroad. So they're very cheap with their shipping. They have most of the products that I talk about. Unfortunately, iHerb has started to buy the cow, which I always promote, the liquid cow stevia, which is deep bitter. It's the best tasting stevia. They start adding maltodextrin, which is rice and corn, byproduct, to give it a sugary taste. I am still buying the one off of, I got to see what other site, what's it called? I can't remember. I buy it from Amazon, which is from where they do not have the maltodextrin in it's still a stevia extract. Stevia is coming from a plant, which is non-sugar. It does not raise your blood glucose. People have been using their glucometer, and they're not having a glucose or insulin, a glucose response or an insulinogenic effect that I have noticed so far by coaching hundreds of people. All right, with that said, I explained in my past video, you want to, the first thing you want to do is have a conversation with yourself. Are you ready to go the mile? Like you're training for the Olympics. No half-assing it. If you want to half-ass, do something else. Because you cannot half-ass on keto at all. Impossible. You got to go 100%, full on, balls to the wall. Go! In being healthy. Process of elimination. You can add back in your crappy foods later that have allergens, like milk, dairy proteins. The fats, like butter, have very tiny amounts of casein, but even some people have a sensitivity to that, so you'd have to take it out. You can use duck fat, you can use lard, tallow, beef tallow, which is basically beef fat or animal fat that you can actually cook with or just eat. Yes, they make tallows that are grass-fed or non-corn fed from animals. So that's how you get more fat in. You put it in teas, you put it in shakes, you put it on top of your food, you put it in salads. I mentioned in the last video you can use an MCT because MCTs can hit the blood-brain barrier faster than like an LCT, which is a long chain triglyceride. It's long and big in particle size, and MCTs are tiny. That's why people use things like this, because it's 100% MCT. That means it's less digestion to hit the bloodstream. It goes faster. So your body kind of goes through this, I'm not in ketosis yet you are just feeding me fat that I don't know how to use. Or I have to wait 2 hours to convert dietary fat into viable ketones. I'm going to feel like crap and make you feel cranky. So where are we? Okay. Then you want to, like I said, your fats are saturated. They're mono, and saturated, a little bit of poly, and you're good to go, right? So monos would be avocados, avocado oil. It'd be olives, olive oil. These are great fats that the body responds to in making ketones, and clearly the saturated fats. Do not try as a vegetarian to keep your fats at mono because you don't eat a variety of protein, because you're not going to get into ketosis. You're not going to become highly adapted. Anyone can produce ketones within 6 hours of not eating a carbohydrate, but your body doesn't use them because it doesn't know how. That's a process. You go level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 3, if your keto adaptation, is being highly keto adapted. If you are highly keto adapted, then you can drop your dietary fat because your brain now is addicted to fat. And to create fat breakdown, you have to eat fat. Are you going to go through a period of having a difficulty losing weight for smaller people? Yes, because you're converting dietary fat, not body fat. Some do. And people who are metabolically sound and strong, they often do, because they have muscle insulin sensitivity, and they've got very active mitochondria within their muscle cells that eat like freaking monsters. So they tend to get into ketosis quicker because their body needs a viable source of energy, so it'll make it from the ketones because their bodies are in balance. If your body's inflamed and it's not in balance, which most of you are not in balance, it's going to take a long time to create ketones. But once you create those ketones, it is amazing. It's the best shite ever. You have energy for days because everybody's got a restaurant right here. Even me at my leanest, I still have 40,000 calories of fat to convert into ketones. So I got a full gas tank all day long, which is why a lot of people say that they're not hungry. Now, I used to put nuts and cheese on my website. People were not adapting. So I took it out. I don't care what you do. I'm just trying to help y'all. That's it. So I made my own choices not to eat that shite. You can do what you want because I'll eat freaking dirt if they say that I need my minerals back in my body. And I'll just go and put some little salt and pepper on that shite, a little bit of pepper, and some Himalayan salt, and I'll eat that all day long because I'll do whatever it takes. We're in the first world, people. We have 10,000 choices of food. And there are people living in countries that have 4, yet they are fine because they're wealthy here and right here. Y'all are addicted to your caffeine, which overstimulates your adrenal glands. It's a diuretic. Think about it. You're peeing out your minerals. And no wonder a lot of you guys are vitamin D deficient in the summer. Really? Why do you need coffee? You're going to give it to a baby? No. I always ask my clients that. You're going to give coffee to a baby? They're like, oh no. I'm like, well, why not? It's not bad. Why not? It's not bad for you. And they're like, they're stumped. They can't give me an answer because nobody does their due diligence on their own research and tries to find out. They just want to remain addicted to their foods. And if you're addicted to anything in life, you're not going to progress because you have to evolve and you have to be malleable. And if you're stuck, you can't move. Okay. So, once you get your macros in order, you got to get your macro timing. You can't stay up late. You got to wake up when the sun rises. It's called the circadian rhythm, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no such thing as a night owl. There are tricks like chamomile and magnesium and turning off your TV, your cell phone, your computer, and wearing blue blockers. These are suggestions that I give people, but really turning off technology is the big one because you're overstimulated. You don't realize that you could fall asleep and then wake up because that's a slow time cortisol release. You have to breathe. We don't breathe anymore. Diaphragmatic breathing, in the nose, out of the mouth. Nice breaths to oxygenate your blood. Get your butt working out. How many people sign up for a consultation who don't work out? You're not going to make ketones. Barely. You have to move. You have to use the heart. And you have to wake up the muscular system and your nervous system. These are ways that you get into ketosis. And you become highly adapted. You jack your fats up. You want your fats to be upwards towards 200 grams of fat in the beginning. Yes! And you probably won't lose weight on 200 grams of fat. And 70, 65 grams or 50, depending if you're a man or a woman or active or not active. You want your protein under 100. Because if you try to jack up, ooh, do I eat protein post-workout? No. No. Once you're highly keto adapted, you're not catabolizing. That's why people use carbs to drive amino acids from protein shakes into their muscle. Because they're catabolic. We're not. Keto adapted people are not. And I keep getting more and more men eating upwards towards 70 grams. And they're like, yo, if I keep going higher, I don't get my business. My business starts going away. Because your body you can't just stuff a bunch of protein in your mouth and your body use it all. No, it's dense. It's a thick, dense molecule. It takes a lot of force to digest. You don't need a lot to get into the muscle. And you still are using insulin. You still are using insulin to drive your amino acids from your moderate protein to low into your muscle. But don't go too low in protein. Because if you go too low, you don't have enough reparative tools to fix the body. Watch your carbs. You can do net carbs, but they have to come from cruciferous veggies. If you start counting net carbs in ketchup, no. Coconut milk, A little bit because there's a lot of fat, but in ketchup and things like that, no. And tomatoes and things that don't have, like cucumber, no, there's not a lot of fiber. So those types of foods are going to hit the glucose. No, and you cannot just eat, like, this much candy because it's your 15 grams of carbs a day. Because it's also how much fiber and fat is in that high sugary food at the rate at which your body, the glucose hits the blood. If glucose hits the blood, the load is too high, and the index is too high, you're going to pop out of ketosis. You cannot drink. You got to make that decision. But the benefits of keto are anti-aging. You preserve the telomeres on the end of your DNA chain, and you are now able to tinker with your epigenetics. You might have an MTHFR gene mutation. Yeah? You might have a problem with B12 and folate. So ketogenesis will help that mutation, the byeffects of having a gene mutation, and getting sick and not tolerating and food allergies. Use your glucometer and make sure that your milligrams are under 80 and your millimolars with glucose are under 4.4. And your ketones between 0.5 and 6.7, and somebody even had a 7.4. No, that's not too high on your millimolars. 20 is. And if you're not a type 1 diabetic, the chances of you reaching ketoacidosis are almost impossible. Almost. There's a rare disease where you can get high acidosis, not be type 1, but it's very, very, very rare. Okay, guys, that's it. I'll do more talks about how do you start the ketogenic diet. I explained in the first video about what vegetables, what fats, what kind of carbohydrates, the timing, getting up by 6:30, going to bed by 10. For people who live in the northern hemisphere, like Norway and Sweden, I understand in Finland that, it doesn't get dark until frickin' like 11 o'clock at night. So those circadian timing windows would be different. But for the rest of us, up at 6 to 6:30, even upwards towards 5. Now, night shift workers, that's a whole nother video, which I've done. I'll do it again. You have issues. Can you keto adapt as a night shift worker? Yes, but the rest of your day has to be immaculate. What else? I think that's it for now. There's a lot of things more I could talk about for a person who's just starting their ketogenic diet, like your meals. Like bacon and eggs is a dense molecule. Break the fast. Don't try to fast right away, because if you try to fast too soon, you will not get into ketosis. You can produce ketones, but you may not get your glucose down. So if you still are producing low glucose and high ketones, and you have a bit of muscle wasting, it's because you're fasting and you don't have enough building material. Food is still nutrients to the body. So you still, even though you are less catabolic and more anabolic, you still need nutrition to come in the old gullet. So that's how you start. there's levels of